In 1893, thousands of tourists visited Chicago's World's Fair, checking into a charming hotel just down the street. For many, it was the trip of a lifetime. For some, it was the last stop they'd ever make. This is the story of the building they called the Murder Castle. Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel. Today we're stepping inside one of America's most chilling true crime stories. We're going to meet the charming doctor who built a labyrinth of death, separate the shocking facts from the sensational fiction, and uncover the fates of the victims history almost forgot. By the end of this, you'll understand how a man hid a house of horrors in plain sight. The central problem of this story was a man named Herman Webster Mudgett, though you know him as Dr. H.H. Holmes. Born in 1861, he was a natural-born con artist, even in medical school, where he famously committed insurance fraud using cadavers. He was charming, intelligent, and utterly without a conscience. He arrived in Chicago in the 1880s, a city booming with opportunity. And when it was announced that the 1893 World's Columbian Exposition, the World's Fair, would be held there, Holmes saw his chance. The city would be flooded with tens of thousands of tourists, all of them strangers, many of them carrying their life savings. They were perfect targets. Holmes bought a lot near the fairgrounds and began construction. But this was no ordinary building project. He constantly fired and hired new crews so no one would understand the final, terrifying blueprint. From the outside, it looked like a normal commercial block with shops and hotel rooms. But inside was a maze of nightmares. Bedrooms had doors that could only be locked from the outside. Walls were soundproofed. There were peepholes for spying, stairways to nowhere, and most infamous of all, a greased chute that slid directly from the upper floors down to the basement. Holmes even bragged it could handle a load of 300 pounds. The basement itself was a disposal facility, equipped with a stretching rack, pits of quicklime, and a massive, human-sized kiln he advertised as a glass-bending furnace. When the fair opened, Holmes's trap was set. He lured victims through cheap hotel rates and help-wanted ads, often targeting single women. Julia Connor and her daughter Pearl vanished after Holmes took out life insurance policies on them. Minnie Williams, an heiress, signed over her property to him before she disappeared, along with her sister Nanny. In the chaotic, vibrant energy of the fair, these disappearances barely caused a ripple. The mystery deepened with Benjamin Pitezel, Holmes's down-on-his-luck business partner. They plotted a life insurance scam where Pitezel would fake his death, but Holmes made the death all too real, killing Pitezel in Philadelphia and collecting the $10,000. The story's most heartbreaking chapter came next. Holmes convinced Pitezel's widow that her husband was in hiding and then took 3 of her children, Alice, Nellie, and Howard, on a cross-country trip, murdering each one along the way. It was this cruel, calculated act that would ultimately be his undoing. The wheels of justice, though slow, eventually began to turn. Police initially arrested Holmes for horse theft, an old warrant from Texas of all things. While he sat in a St. Louis jail, seemingly for a minor offense, a sharp Philadelphia detective began to piece together the gruesome puzzle. He matched the burned body in Philadelphia to Benjamin Pitezel through dental records, a brand new cutting-edge forensic trick for the time. This was a game changer. Suddenly, every city where Holmes had mailed a letter, every place he'd passed through, became a potential crime scene. Pinkerton agents, the most renowned private detectives of the era, were brought in, tracing his every movement. Newspapers, hungry for sensational stories, printed lurid sketches of the torture castle, igniting public outrage. This immense public pressure finally forced Chicago cops to break down the building's brick wall entryway, revealing the horrors within. They found the chute, the kiln, and enough bone fragments to fill a crate. Holmes, ever the showman, tried to control his narrative, selling his confession to the Hearst papers for a hefty $7,500, claiming 27 murders. Evidence, however, supported a confirmed 9, with perhaps a dozen more nationwide. At trial, he played the wrong gentleman, but the jury took less than an hour to sentence him to death. Now, with a story this wild, myths are bound to sprout up like weeds. Let's clear some of them up. Myth 1. Holmes skinned victims to make skeletons for medical schools. Fact, no such medical sale records exist, and frankly, Turn-of-the-century buyers would have rejected unlabeled, unprovenanced bones. It just doesn't track. Myth 2. He murdered 200 people inside the castle. Fact. While the true number of his victims is still debated and likely higher than confirmed, Chicago coroner tallies credit him with 9 confirmed kills, maybe a dozen more nationwide. The 200 victim count is pure sensationalism. Myth 3. The castle was demolished because locals feared ghosts. Fact. Arsonists torched the empty building in 1895, and city crews simply knocked down the fire-damaged walls during a street-widening project. The truth, in this case, is grim enough without carnival exaggeration. A con man built a hotel for the express purpose of stealing lives, and for 2 busy years, he chillingly succeeded. That's terrifying enough without needing any supernatural embellishment. If you're into these history deep dives, smash that like button and drop a comment with the urban legend you want busted next. Subscribed? Great, we've got new videos every week where we separate the facts from the campfire stories. On the gallows in 1896, he showed no remorse. His execution was botched. It took 20 minutes for him to strangle to death. In a final, macabre request, he asked to be buried under 10 tons of concrete, fearing grave robbers. So, what's the truth behind the myths? The castle wasn't demolished because of ghosts. It burned in a suspicious fire. The murder castle is gone now, its foundation buried under a Chicago post office. But the blueprint for evil that Holmes designed, a place where charm masks pure malice, that legacy lives on. It's a permanent warning about the monsters who can hide in plain sight. If you learned something new, share this story with a friend. Thanks for watching. Stay curious, stay kind, and as always, sleep well.